Hello, my name is Chayla, and y'all been reading my little excerpts for the past couple of weeks. So, as we promised that you get some exclusive content, this is it. We just came up with this right now. So, we have it all set up. We have the fire going, the barn back here. There will be distractions when this happens, but that's just honesty of the media. So, yeah, tonight I'm going to read for y'all. It's called I Prefer Gay from chapter 4. We've been sending little excerpts out, but y'all are going to y'all get the whole chapter. I'm reading it to you right now. And this is kind of like practice for me because I haven't done a lot of reading in front of other people, which are not really there. So I'm just reading actually in front of Jessica, and that's cool. So, chapter 4, I Prefer Gay. Wayne had a giant penis. He was also born with a giant head that he didn't grow into until way after we divorced. We had an Episcopal wedding in the church I grew up in on December 26, 1992. He was 21, I was 22. We were married by Father Larry Mays, despite the tragic death of his sister-in-law 24 hours earlier. He performed the ceremony, and his wife played the organ. Later, Father Mays became the Bishop of Arkansas, then retired, divorced, and married a man. Mama loved to plan a party, and our wedding was her time to shine. I have the black notebook dedicated to its every detail with receipts. She drew a bird's eye view of the banquet hall and sanctuary. Arrows pointed to exactly where she wanted the cake, the champagne, the punch, the registry, and each pot of blooming narcissus. Weeks before the wedding, she packed her closets with pots of narcissus bulbs. Her note said 25 pots with 4 narcissus each. She forced them to bloom within a few hours of the ceremony. That was a good thing because we had to take a few from each pot to make me a new bouquet. Mama's friend Melinda accidentally put the one Danny made for me in the stand-up deep freeze instead of the refrigerator. One page of the notebook is dedicated to the design and materials needed to make the wedding banner she donated to the church afterwards. 3.5 yards of white cotton velveteen for the panel, 2.5 yards of satin for the cross, and gold lame for the wedding band sewn on top. The gold lame had been the top of her closet for years. Originally used to cover the crown and pharaoh headpieces made from plaster cast material for the annual Christmas pageant. Mama was inspired by the King Tut exhibit she and Daddy saw in New Orleans in 1977. I was 6 years old. All I remember was sitting on Daddy's shoulders as he walked down Bourbon Street, pausing at open doors, where naked ladies stood on the bar with gold tassels spinning on their titties. When there was a lull and Mama talking about fucking Florida, she tossed the Penland catalog to me, said I should go. I'm glad she did because that's where I figured out I was gay. At Penland School of Crafts in the dining hall on top of a mountain in Spruce Pine, North Carolina, I got butterflies for the first time ever when I saw Jane Walker Crowe wiping down a table in a beam of sunlight, wearing overalls over a white tank top with no bra. Her dark brown hair was braided and twirled up on top of her head with clover flowers and a few coarse strands of gray sticking out. I had to catch my breath. It was August of 1997. I was there for a week as the studio assistant for Ann Parks Hawthorne, a documentary photographer. I'm going to take a sip of my beer now. Innocent Gun. Red is the best. Jane Walker Crowe was there on work study scholarship taking a sculpture beading class. She was wild. She smoked weed, danced in the rain, and didn't shave her armpits. She smelled like patchouli. I'd never smelled it before. Jane Walker Crowe knew she caught my eye and asked me to take nude photos of her. I'd never felt so confidently attracted to someone in my entire life. I told her no. If I was alone with her, we wouldn't take any photographs. I was married and could not cheat. I fucked the shit out of Wayne when I got back to Slaughter. It'd been a while since I let him near me, but I had something else I could think about. I got super freaky into it, even tasted myself on him for the first time. I was delicious. I made new friends at Penland too, Mark and Elizabeth, initially over beer. It was a dry county, and I didn't bring any, so they had extra. I about fell out when they said they were from Savannah. I had just been there to help one of Mama's former art students open a gallery and was ready to move. They about fell out when I said I had a husband. They were sure I was gay but didn't mention it. Mark and Elizabeth had degrees in historic preservation and were busy buying houses, fixing them up and renting them out. Their motto was always buy a brick. I told them how Wayne was working a dead-end job at his family's heating and air business, and I was painting houses. They assured me we would not lack for work in Savannah. I went with Mama and Martha to help Shelley with the grand opening of the Athena, an art gallery in a 3-story marble-faced building on Liberty Street. It was Mama and Martha's third trip at least, but my first. Shelley was Mama's best private art student, 1st through 12th grade. Even though she and I went to the same kindergarten, where her mama taught, I didn't really know either of them until Mama and Martha became best friends. It was Shelley's idea. Throughout college, Shelley would visit Mama when in town, talk about her art and future plans. Mama told Shelley about the Savannah College of Art and Design, SCAD. Savannah became the new vacation destination for Mama and Martha. Mama loved Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, the art scene, architecture, and her dog was welcome everywhere. It reminded her of when she used to work at Allison's Wells, an art colony and hotel with fine dining in Way, Mississippi. She almost took over the place, but it burned down before that happened. Mama planned to retire to Savannah and maybe open her own artist retreat with fine dining, a little bed and breakfast. Wayne and I went to visit Mark and Elizabeth. They lived in the Baldwin Park neighborhood in a wooden 2-story Victorian with a pair of Jack Russell Terriers. I can only remember Josephine's name because she jumped on the bed and peed on me and Wayne during the night. We were fast friends, drank beer, told stories, planned our future in Savannah. Everything fell into place. Got the Savannah Morning News mailed to us in Slaughter. Wayne saw an ad for a heating and air technician, did a phone interview, and got hired. Mark and Elizabeth found us an apartment around the corner from their house. I was okay with getting rid of the chickens. My new goal was Savannah. We sold them to a guy in Eupora through the Trade Winds Classifieds. They were land hids by then, quite valuable, but we gave him a good deal and agreed to deliver them since we had to take the turkeys and a few cats to friends in Columbus. Eupora was on the way. I packed the birds and frozen chicken boxes from the grocery store. They had a divider, air holes, and a lid. A chicken fit real nice on each side, 19 boxes in all. Eupora wasn't much more than a flashing light in a gas station. That's where we met the buyer and followed him to his place way deep in the woods. Turned off one dirt road onto another, then another and another, until finally he stopped in front of a tiny trailer. Next to it was the biggest pallet chicken coop I've ever seen. Bigger than where he lived. Said he built it from pallets he got at work. I'd bring one box over to the coop and he'd open it, grab a bird by the leg, hold it upside down, and say, "That's a good looking bird," or "Ooh-wee, she's nice." He commented on every bird like he was watching fireworks on the 4th of July. When we moved out of the Blue House on Riverbend Plantation, we had Nugget, a golden retriever we got from my cousin Natalie. Ewan, the chocolate lab, ran off, probably because he wasn't neutered. I know better now. Still had Bob, Killer, one of Minna's kittens, Watson, a tabby kitten with white feet Wayne found underneath the house while he was installing ductwork, and a number of frogs with teeth that he was into at the time. Nugget rode with Wayne, the cats rode in the cab of the pickup he was pulling behind the U-Haul, and the frogs rode with me as we caravaned for 12 hours to Savannah. St. Patrick's Day of 1998, 7 a.m., I opened the door to see Mark and Elizabeth, along with other neighbors, drinking beer and pulling coolers, and wagons full of kids, all wearing green, headed downtown for the parade. We didn't even unload the U-Haul, opened a beer and joined the crowd. What a welcome to Savannah. A week later, I was off to Penland again, on scholarship as a studio assistant for Ralph Burns' class, The Dark Room and Beyond, a month-long concentration class in museum quality black and white printing. Penland was magic. I'd never masturbated and had a private room and decided it was time to learn. I made a day of it and was raw by the time I figured it out, but knew as soon as I healed up, I was going to do it again, and I did, so long as it didn't hurt. For a solid month, I rubbed myself every which way I could. With a pillow between my legs, lay on the floor with my feet pushed up against the wall. I even got up on my knees and did it. It was liberating. I wouldn't have ever gotten married if I knew masturbating was just as good. Why the fuck did I wait so long? Because when I was little, Mama caught me with my panties off, looking between my legs when I was supposed to be napping. She told me to never do that again, and I didn't until I was 27 years old. When I got back from Penland the second time, I did not fuck the shit out of Wayne. From the time I admitted to myself I was attracted to women to when we agreed to get a divorce was 3 months. My journal took the brunt. Wrote, "We need to talk," over and over, like grammar school punishment. Forced myself to have sex with him, hoping I would get into it, but I didn't. And I became more distant. He tried harder to be intimate, and I rejected him more, which hurt his feelings. I wrote out whole conversations that never happened to prepare for a conversation I wanted to have. Sought out a therapist, well, a psychotherapist. I didn't know the difference. I randomly picked her because I could find York Street and she had the same name as a state chicken doctor in Mississippi, Dr. Brown. I got lucky. She thought we were on the splits and my real problems lay with my past and how to deal with things now. A theme that holds true to this day. After 4 rounds with her, I quit journaling our conversations and we talked about how I didn't want to have sex, not why. He said this sex thing could eventually be a problem. He wanted to know how we could fix it. I told him I don't know. He said he didn't know. We sat there, drank beer, and stared at the floor. Then he got up and went to the bedroom. I walked in there and he was sitting on the bed crying. God, what was I supposed to do? He said he didn't want to lose me, and he was afraid that would happen if he came home in a bad mood from work and said something shitty. He was afraid that that would push me over the edge and out the door. He didn't want to do that. I dropped a bunch of hints, but still hadn't flat out said it. I thought maybe I was bi. He kept trying to be intimate. I gave him one more time, which gave him hope and made me even more sure I didn't want to have sex with him anymore. Finally, I journaled. I have to tell him about the woman thing. I believe that's the root of my sex problems. And I did at 11:30 that night. I came clean and told him I thought I was attracted to women. He told me to go out and try it and come home. Or we could do it together, not what I had in mind. I had never even kissed a woman, but I knew. And I told him that's why I was leaving. He thought it was something I could get over and was heartbroken. Our marriage was good. I just couldn't stay in it once I realized my sexuality. Mama called me daily. Although delighted, she felt our divorce was abrupt. She flat out asked if I would be with a woman. I said yes. Then she said, I knew it. I knew it when you were 7 years old, so I pushed you in the other direction. Daddy called right after that and wanted to know about the lesbian thing. He said I was just not with the right man yet, and what I felt was admiration for women, and said he called Dorothy. Then my godmother Dorothy called, and all she said was I never discussed it with her, asked me a whole bunch of questions. Mama said it would take her some time to get used to the idea. Then she threw out everything I had, all my Barbies and anything else she was saving for grandchildren, effectively reducing my life to the contents of a box. She made lesbian sound like a disease. That's probably why I prefer gay.